Thanks for changing the time.
This is the part where I need theme music. Oh, no problem. I'm up usually till midnight anyway every night. If I'm not doing, podcasts to the ether, then I'm writing on the next novel or doing a review. I see that there's a guitar hanging behind you. How come you're not recording rock albums instead of doing comics?
I used to do that. It kind of, I don't know, like I just enjoy playing at home with my kids basically. And so I don't know, I really retired that kind of thing. I wouldn't mind recording again though. That was kind of fun. The gigging got really old though.
I can imagine. Now maybe do some live streams with it, do some Ethan pulls out the keyboard and does stuff. You could strum along and sing some comic book song. There's a little Joel Satriani.
Yeah, I should do that. I played once on a stream, but it was a long time ago. Yeah, I should definitely do it again. I should plan some stuff out and do it. That would be fun.
All right. Well, for the people who aren't here yet, but who see it on the replay, if you're addicted to hitting that super chat button, I hate to disappoint you, but we don't have one. So you're just going to have to sit back and listen and throw comments out. And if you make a good one, we'll toss it up and talk about it. But other than that, you're going to have to keep your money. I don't want it. It's not true. I just haven't earned enough subscribers yet. So you can help out with that if you want. We are talking with Clint Stoker, who is reputedly the great-great-great-great-grandson of Grandfather Stoker.
Yeah.
Are you getting much mileage out of that?
A lot of people have been suggesting to me. I wasn't watching the stream when Ethan first brought it up, but I guess since then, I've just had a ton of people send me messages or at me on Twitter to mention it, which is funny because I've talked about it all the time as being the only public domain character I'd be interested in writing. And that's because, my last name's Stoker. So, it just seems like it has to happen. But yeah, it's really cool seeing so many people are really excited about it, even though I don't really have like direct plans to do it. But since people have been asking, I'm like, yeah, I'll totally do it. So I got to put it on my roster of books to do and make sure it happens.
Have you opened an Ancestry account? And if there's actually connection, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, so I do have an Ancestry account. I need to get in there and really do some searching. I've asked my parents if there's any relation and they say no, but I will I'll take a look at it more hard. I really want to find a family connection there. That'd be great.
That would be very awesome. So obviously you have been picked up by Alterna. We were going to have Peter on here, but it's past his bedtime on the East Coast there. So he might show up, might not show up. How did that work out? I mean, you did, first of all, you had the balls to think that you could write a comic book. So let's start with there. What made you think you could do a comic book? Because there's so many people out there who can't. And are getting paid for it.
So for me, I started out writing music, actually, hence the guitar, and that's something that I had done for a number of years, like all growing up as well, and then into adulthood. And I got to a point where I got tired of the music part of it, and I was a lot more interested in the writing part of it and that kind of self-expression. And so I actually took to writing novels. I've written 2 novels and self-published both. And so that was a really good experience, but it wasn't like the perfect medium for me. And I love comics. And so for me, I always wanted to do comics. It was just something that was really expensive to get done. And you got to find an artist and all that kind of stuff. And so it had been a dream. I'd made little attempts to get published and do small, really, really small stories. And then, here comes crowdfunding, and I started my YouTube channel, and there seemed to be a lot of people, relatively a lot of people that were interested in what I was saying, and so I thought, why don't I do this? So yeah, I pulled out a script that I had been working on for a number of years. I wanted to do probably my favorite comic, like it would be my ultimate book to do. So I spent a lot of time working on that and promoting it on the YouTube channel to go to crowdfunding. And I am fortunate enough that 930 odd backers were interested enough to give me a shot. So that was how I got the first Downcast book published last year. And then, off that success, it's like, well, let's do more. So it's been great.
Sure. Now you did say, there's difficulty finding an artist, and this was before the crowdfunding came along. How does crowdfunding make it easier to find an artist? Because a lot of them still want to be paid up front. They don't want to be waiting for any kind of funding to come in off of a crowdfunding source.
Yeah. So what I did is I found an artist on DeviantArt. Actually, I went through a couple different artists that and I got a project started. I said, do a cover, we kind of started there. And I wasn't really happy with some of the professionalism and things. And so I kept going back to DeviantArt, and then I found Ignacio Lazaro. He's the artist on Downcast, and I had him do a cover, and he was very professional about it. I loved his portfolio, really great stuff on his portfolio. And so what I did is I sold my Magic the Gathering cards. And yeah, that was rough. I had I don't know if you do follow Magic the Gathering at all, but I had like I had 3 Liliana of the Veils and a playset of Tarmogoyf. For anyone that knows, those are pretty expensive cards, relatively speaking. I sold them all so that I could pay for enough art to do just a few pages for the initial campaign. And so that's how it started. So that got me to the campaign, got the art we needed. Then we raised the rest of the money through crowdfunding. And with that, we were able to pay for the entire book. So it was, it worked out quite well. I'm pretty happy with it. And I did buy those cards back too, just out of principle.
Good. By the way, you're a total noob when it comes to Magic the Gathering. I hate to tell you that. I was sitting at work, and I'm not going to say what year it was, but a fellow geek that I worked with came back from a convention and said, "Hey, I've got these things. There were these little playing cards with these black borders around them."
Yeah.
So when I sold my Magic cards, I had a deck of 60. That was my killer deck. $400 for it, but I had, and they probably don't have any of these cards anymore. I had a Time Twister, which was what everything hinged on, which was. Do you know that card? It's the one where you take your hand and you shuffle everything back up and you start both people, all players rather.
Nice.
And before I did that, I would throw this artifact at Tormod's Crypt, moved the other player's graveyard from the play.
Yeah.
So it was millstones. Top card was always up. They would draw nothing but land until they ran out of cards, because I read the rule book and it was always, hey, you start with 20 life, you gain life, you lose life, whoever gets down to 0 loses. And like somewhere buried on the last page of the rule book was, if you have no more cards to play, you lose. I'm like, I'm going for that. That's what I can do. So I just protected myself and,
nice.
Mox emeralds, Mox rubies, all the, oh man, I'm geeking out on cards. We're supposed to be talking comics.
You're good. Yeah.
I tried to get back into it a few years later, and it was like I didn't recognize the game anymore.
Yeah. It's changed a lot. Yeah. So you were playing what now would be considered probably vintage, I'm guessing. And yeah, those cards are around, but yeah, most of them they're like on the I can't remember what they call it, the reserve list, I think. So they'll never print them again. So yeah, they're really going up in value, a lot of those cards. But yeah, I don't have any. I mean, I have some cards from the 90s, but not like alpha or beta. So yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I play modern Magic, and I do a little Pauper. Those are the formats I play. It's fun. I love it. It's a really fun hobby, but it can get expensive, like comics.
I can imagine. Have you ever played the digital version of it that they were trying to come out with? I don't even know if that's still out there.
Yeah, so they have Magic Online, which has been around for a little while. It's really clunky looking, the interface, but it works. And then they have the new one, Magic Arena. I mean, relatively new. It's been around probably like a year, 2 years, something like that. I've played with that once, is all. But I like to play paper Magic primarily. I'll do Magic Online sometimes just because it's convenient. But yeah, it's something I like to do with my brother, my younger brother. We spend a lot of time doing Magic together when we can. I went to a Grand Prix once in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was a blast. I want to do one of those again so bad. It was so fun.
Yeah, shortly after I sold all my cards, I realized that I might have gotten out way too soon because I'm sitting on the couch and I'm flipping through channels and I'm on ESPN2 and they're doing a Magic the Gathering tournament on ESPN. I'm like, what the? When did this happen? When did the geeks take over the sports channel? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Those are fun. Like, I enjoy watching. Like, I'm not into the Super Bowl. I'm such a nerd. I'm not into the Super Bowl, but I will watch the Magic Pro Tour, especially if they're playing modern or one of the formats I'm interested in. So yeah, I love watching those tournaments. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, again, it's like one of those things I have to actively tell myself, like, you know what, I need to take a break from Magic. If I get into it too much, then I just want to buy all the cards, all the singles and stuff I need, and I justify it away. But it's been cool because lately I've been spending more money on comics and building up my collection there as well, especially graphic novels. And I don't know, it's been fun to not spend as much money on cards.
Yeah. The first 6 months that we were all into it, we were playing by the original rules, which were rather cutthroat because you started with your deck and you shuffled it and everyone took the top card off their deck and that went into the pot. So everyone was risking losing a valuable card to whoever won that game.
It's like Pogs.
It wasn't points or anything like that. It was. So let's look back to Downcast now.
Sure.
Just for my edification, so that when I start to write about it later, which I will, what is this? What's the grand scenario here? What's the story?
Yeah. So Downcast is about blue-collar teens that use the power of gravity to try and save their father from death in prison. It takes place in a floating city in the sky. And so you can imagine if you control gravity, you are essentially the god of that city. So it's a lot of fun. The second installment basically it'll end off the story arc. I will probably do more Downcast stories in the future, but I don't have immediate plans to do it. So this second volume will round things off nicely, and basically the city is divided, and now the power of gravity is sort of working against them. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited about the script. I really enjoyed writing it. I think it'll show a whole new level of writing ability from me. And yeah, it's on Indiegogo right now. We're almost at 25,000 now.
And we have the link right down there in the description. So everybody click on that, check it out, and back that title. The title is Rise and Fall with a W and a Z. So
yeah,
are you just trying to be cool with the fonts, or does that mean something?
Yeah, so Wrize is actually the name of the villain. He's a senator in the first book. And so, I don't know, it's tough with crowdfunding because you kind of feel like you need to do some kind of subtitle for the book as opposed to just a number 2, because then new readers are more likely to go look at the book. So yeah, I get asked about that subtitle a lot. Or yeah, it makes sense if you read the first book. So it has a connection to the story, but I could probably do better. I'll admit that. I just felt pressured to do a subtitle.
Well, you're right, though. A subtitle gives a feeling of completion, that I'm getting something that's has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whereas number 2, you might be picking up from somewhere you don't know where you started, and you might end up on a cliffhanger, right, and you put $25 in the thing here. So nobody wants to to do that for that kind of money. But for a full book, sure, if they've got closure with it, they'll invest in it.
Yeah.
So what's your approach to writing a comic? I mean, Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, or any of the published scripts that other writers have done to see a format?
Yeah, so I did a lot of reading of other scripts to see what I like best. The interesting thing with comic scripts is they're so different in how they're formatted and how writers approach comic script formats, or even just writing comics in general. So there was, I don't know, there's a lot of freedom in that regard, but it's also kind of scary because there's not like one set way to do it, so yeah, I looked at a lot of different writers, a lot of different scripts, and read through a whole bunch and picked a way that I like to write, something that makes sense for me. I am definitely a plot-driven writer. I usually will plot out a story ahead of time. I'll have an outline and make sure to leave enough room in that outline for a little bit of freedom, like during the writing process. And so, yeah, that is kind of how I approach it. With Downcast, it was kind of a hybrid between full script, which is where you have, every camera angle written out, and you're very specific about the whole story, and the Marvel method, which is more where you're putting control into the hands of the artist to plot out the story and make things work. So I wrote it in full script, but Nacho understood that he has a lot of creative control to change things and change the pacing to how he sees fit. So we sort of treated it like Marvel method as far as that goes. I think it works for us. And I've noticed, like, as I'm working with other artists, currently I'm working on one that is entirely Marvel method. And it's kind of frightening sometimes because you don't have the control. And then I've done some full scripts. For example, I wrote Silver Streak, which it has yet to be published, but I think it's going to happen. And so I've kind of dabbled in each. If I'm being honest, I think full script's my favorite way because I enjoy having the real control over every aspect that I can.
Sure. And there's the story and the plot, obviously, but there's the draftsmanship that is also very important when you're doing a comic book, as opposed to doing a novel. With a novel, you're targeting a word count. You're like, okay, I'm doing 150,000 words. That's a nice sized novel. And you don't care if it's 152,000 or 149,000 or even 175,000. But with a comic book, you have to have the exact number of pages, and they better be divisible by 4. Because if you have to add 1 page, then you have to add 3 more pages.
Yeah, it was that was a bit of a learning curve for me. I'm not gonna lie. It was different because you're really constrained by page counts. Just like you say, you want to do them in multiples of 8 pages. And so that's just so that the printing works. And then also paying attention to which page is on the right hand side, which one's on the left hand side. The page turn really matters for storytelling. So that was a bit of a learning curve for me. The other thing is, I think that Ernest Hemingway is my idol as far as writing goes. He's very clean and simple in his word choice, and there's less, and less is more. And so that does lend itself to comics quite well because it's such a visual medium. I focus really, really hard on keeping my dialogue tight and just edit it down to exactly what you need. And that, I think that's how I like to read comics. And so those are the kind of comics I want to write too. So you go through it at a nice pace, and the focus is really on the art because, it's a comic after all, it's not a novel. So that's really what I work on and my thought process. And I think it works. I'm really proud of the outcome.
Yeah, and you're right. The pacing is very important, especially with the paper version, which is my preferred version over digital. Same with the cards. I prefer to have something in my hands, very tactile, because when you're on an odd numbered page, you can get that elliptical cliffhanger kind of thing going. Then you turn the page, and you can, bam, right there. as opposed, if you're on the bottom of the page, even numbered page, you don't quite get the same effect because out of the corner of the eye has already seen what's coming after what's at the bottom of the even numbered page over at the top of the odd numbered page. And we've all seen the misprint from Marvel or DC. It's rare where somebody had a 2-page splash page and it went across page 3 and 4 instead of across page 4 and 5. So it's like, this was supposed to go together and you've got to flip it to see the whole picture. You're right. It's you have to direct it to the page and control the pacing that way.
Yep.
So how did Alterna get involved?
Yeah, as when I first started my YouTube channel, I started getting into a lot of the issues that I saw in comics, not comic issues, but problems that I saw in comics. It became apparent to me that there were some things to be desired in a publisher.
Yes.
So I discovered Alterna Comics in 2018. I think it was probably around November. It was the first time I was aware of. Maybe it was October 2018. Looked into Alterna and I really dug what they were doing. I liked that it was creator-owned books. That's always been something that interested me. And so I thought I'd like to submit to Image Comics, or excuse me, not Image, Alterna Comics, because of those kinds of aspects in the newsprint and the affordable prices. So what it came down to is as my campaign approached, I launched the campaign, and then I submitted a submission for Downcast to Alterna Comics. And you send it through their web form or email. I can't remember exactly how submissions work. I think it's a web form. And from there you just wait. So that was just after I launched the campaign. We had gotten funded, so I thought that was good news. That was a good place to start. And then I heard back from Peter Simeti, a couple weeks later, something like that. And he said that he thought I had a really interesting book and he wanted to talk more about it. And as somebody who has been rejected from many publishers, that was a really cool feeling. I kept that email, and
yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a really, really rewarding moment. So yeah, then from there, I think it was a month or 2 months, or I don't know, time all blurs together, but it was a little while later. We talked about some of the specifics. I signed a contract, and we picked a publication schedule, and we had it all ready to go. So this was, months and months ago that we had the deal figured out. From there, it was just like waiting and keeping my mouth shut about it. Initially, I think he normally announces books in November because he announces the publication for the next year, the publication schedule. But he only announced the first half, which bought me some time. I'd be curious to ask Peter if that was one of the reasons or if he had other reasons. I can't remember. So he moved the announcement back to January. I thought that would be a good time to launch the book, especially, for the second half, Rise and Fall, especially because I needed the money to finish the book. So we launched it around the same time, within the same week. And then we made the announcement, and yeah, it's been really cool. People have been so supportive and so positive about it. It's been really cool so far.
So how does this impact the crowdfunded book? I mean, is there a crowdfunded version and then it's going to be serialized at Alterna, or is it all going to be Alterna distributed?
Yeah, that's a good question. So technically, the crowdfunded book, I am the publisher for. So just like the first book of Alterna, the second one, Rise and Fall, it'll be printed as a graphic novel on, if you got the first one, you know the quality, but it's a really thick paper. It's a quality book all around, but it doesn't have the Alterna logo on it. When it goes through Alterna, those trade paperback versions will be split up into 4 different floppies. So 2 from Downcast 1 and 2 from Downcast 2. And those will start publication with Downcast number 1 in newsprint in October. So I like this method, especially because, and Peter's here, the publication is changing a little bit because he's phasing out graphic novels. So it's cool because it gives me the ability to do the graphic novel first, and then he does single issues later. Did I describe that okay, Peter?
Excellent.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And whoa, packed house tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about it. We
not
have
even
somebody
watching.
watching, so it's probably
Oh, that's great.
it's
Well-
embarrassing.
Well,
I try
welcome,
not to. I
Clint
just ignore
and
it.
RJ. Welcome.
You're good.
How are you guys doing?
Oh,
Good.
doing awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Prepping books today and all kinds of other crazy whatever publisher stuff. I'm sure Clint has been.
I kind of figured
representing
you
well.
would be because he absolutely has. He's been telling all the dirty secrets and behind the
good.
scenes dirty laundry. Um,
Good. That's what we hired him for.
you can watch it on the replay. We'll edit it out. I promise.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, speaking of hiring, first I want to make sure Clint is down. And here's the dreaded question: is it a Comicsgate book?
I like how you wait till I'm on here.
Oh, he's rolling the eyes, looking away.
Although, you know what? I mean, there's no one in here except for, I think, me on the other screen watching. So
Yeah.
Exactly, and you quit. You quit watching. So
yeah,
No,
there
it's
you
all
go.
good. Yeah. So this is where it gets a little bit. I mean, it's not complicated, but it's not as straightforward an answer. Downcast 1 was, as Comicsgate as any other Comicsgate book. The thing is, like, I don't know. I never like officially said like this is a Comicsgate book. I look at it and I feel like things have evolved a little bit from when I started and when I published the first book. So as a brand, it's not like published under a Comicsgate label.
I don't remember seeing them in Diamond.
Right. Yeah, but
Yeah.
and that's where I think it has.
There
That's
is no
where
such label. There shouldn't.
yeah, I think it has evolved. And so, but yeah, I mean, everybody knows that I talk about Comicsgate stuff. My YouTube channel talks about it. I do streams with everybody that does. I promote other creators, within Comicsgate. But the difference here is that these single issues going through Alterna, they're Alterna Comics, and so I think, I mean, Peter, you correct me and let me know.
Yeah,
what your
the
perspective is.
single issues are Alterna issues, but first and foremost, these are creator owned. So these are Clint's issues and his creative team and the story they're telling. And to me, every single book that we get at Alterna, I always want the creators to have the whole motto that we keep on pushing, which is these are comics for everyone, and that's where we stand by that 100%. So it's not even me thinking, okay, well, we gotta sit there and we gotta specifically just sell comics to certain people. That's a very difficult thing to do anyway. I don't know how many people really try to do something like that. You make the story, you put it out there, and then people gravitate towards it, and when they purchase it especially and they read it, you thank them for reading. And it doesn't get more complicated than that, and it really shouldn't be more complicated than that. So this book is for everybody, whether that's Comicsgate, non-Comicsgate, people who have no idea what Comicsgate is, which is probably 99.9% of the entire planet. It's for them too. So there's nothing behind that. We're not excluding anybody or aiming to specifically include anyone. These are books for everybody.
And if I can add to that, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go ahead.
So I was just going to say, with how I view Comicsgate, I could even ask, like, what are the principles of Comicsgate? To you, to me, at least, when I started my channel in 2018, it was treating your customers with respect. It was doing books that didn't have political propaganda in them. It was, respecting your fans. I think I basically said that. I don't know if you can think of any more, but all of those principles are what I apply to my books. You know what I mean? And that's how I try to manage. You know, I've never been perfect. That's how I try to manage my existence. So if that's your definition of Comicsgate
For
principles,
me, it's not even.
yeah,
It's close for me. I mean, I don't make comics. I don't write comics. I can't afford an artist. I write books. I'm fortunate enough to be published by Destroyer Books. I write the Adventures of Remo Williams, the Destroyer, and we have gotten into our own publishing thing. In fact, momentary shill here, we do the hardcover young adult novel Bulletproof by Stephen J. Mitchell, available on Amazon from Critical Blast Publishing. So that is out there. A link is in the description. Please follow. But for me, the idea of Comicsgate is not so much respecting your customer and respecting your reader, insofar as it is not blatantly disrespecting your customer and your reader. Which, you know, if you're going to get in and you're going to start preaching something and you're going to get prop into your story, well, you're disrespecting your reader because you're like telling the reader, hey, you know, you're doing everything wrong, and I'm going to teach you living your life. And that's just, I don't want that. I would rather things be just tell a fun story and let me get in there and get out.
right.
Well,
right.
these aren't self-help.
But the
books,
reason I
it's
did
comic
ask you, exactly. And the reason I asked Clint that, specifically right when you got on here, was that when the announcement did come out, you know, some of the old from when things really year were taking notice and were saying, hey, you know how you said it would be the first one to pick up a Comicsgate book for distribution? Well, looky what finally happened. I'm like, well, yeah, you said they'd do it in a minute. It took a year, so it's a time dilation.
Oh, we're the first one?
There.
You mean Antarctic
But,
hasn't put out a whole bunch, and Dynamite didn't partner with Ethan? And like, are people seriously cherry picking like that? I mean, that's fine.
Oh, actually, no, I think you are.
People can be out of touch as much as they want.
I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I don't know that Antarctic is publishing anything
people can
specific Comicsgate.
There's got a bunch of creators on there that I think would definitely consider themselves such.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you know, it's just
used to be,
to me, people can just kind of say whatever they want. I really could care less at this point, especially. We're just going to make comics, and if you want to read them, great. If you don't want to read them, that's great. I hope you're finding something that you enjoy. If you do read ours and you don't enjoy it and you hate it or whatever it is, you want to tell us that, that's fine too. People are welcome to have any opinion they want about a book. That's great.
Well, I will say I've enjoyed every alternative book I've read, and I certainly get my money's worth.
You should. Great.
Because they're the right. Particularly fond of Midnight Mystery, specifically because of that beautiful back cover ad on the first issue. I hope I get to see one of those run again sometime soon. Have to see what I can do about that. Clint's blinking.
I'm happy to just bring great comics out there into the world, and that's the thing too. What's really funny is that some people, I think, they look at that and they think, well, why didn't he publish this one? Why didn't he publish that one? Truth be told, it's because Clint sent in a submission. I don't run around scouting for comics. I get almost 200 submissions a month. I'm busy enough as it is. Maybe one day I'll get to the point where I really feel I should start scouting. Every year I think, all right, this is the year I'm going to start looking at books on crowdfunding sites, and then I'm going to take notice and contact them and this and that. But every year the submissions grow more and more. So Clint submitted the book. Many people don't. So
success does that.
Yeah, and then Clint and his team, we got Nacho on there and Damien and Eric Weathers. They're excited about their books and they interact with their readers really well, and that's the kind of stuff I like. So that's all it really takes is just a combination of quality and attitude.
Yeah.
It's like that old saying, you don't get what you don't ask.
Yeah, that's all it is. And our submissions are open all year round, 24/7, 365. So we're not one of these publishers that just, it's a certain window, and if you miss it, you miss it. They're open right now. So people can go check that out and visit the Alterna Comics site. And if they think, hey, this would be a good fit for us and our book would be a good fit for them, they can feel free to submit.
Yeah.
So are you going to be doing
Sorry,
But was
ahead.
that
Go
kind of
ahead,
broke
Clint. The
up?
delay is hard to get past.
Yeah. So, now I lost where I was going with that.
So
Yeah.
you're going to serialize the first Downcast at Alterna.
Yeah, so it'll be both books. So Downcast 1 and then Downcast Rise and Fall. And each of those will be broken up into 2 issues. So yeah, I mean, it's a cool partnership because it can, to me, this is the way I see it, is you're combining crowdfunded books, like self-published essentially, with direct market sales in kind of a backward way, actually, because you're doing the trade paperback first. So I don't know. I'm excited about it. I think it's a good route to go. The other thing is that I was going to say, I remember, is that I often like my creating of comics my being a comic book writer also gets entangled with my YouTube channel, and they're very different processes. They're different mediums to work in. And my YouTube channel is kind of political, like I address political things there. My comics don't at all. Like they're just fun comics. And so I think that's where also, like, when it comes to the branding, technically my own publisher, I'm just Sweetcast, or that's my DBA, but it's also Clint Stoker Publishing, and I have a lot of freedom to do whatever I want, with those in that format. And the nice thing is that I appreciate about Alterna Comics is I share opinions on my YouTube channel, and that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like that has no bearing. Whereas it might in other publishers, for example.
Well, if you like change your signature to very look like a swastika, then people everything your YouTube channel and apply it to your comics. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You are putting out the trade paperback first and then dividing it. But I think that's been done before with other things. And besides which, it's not like, the trade paperback's out and then people can just go to their Barnes and Noble and say, well, I'll just buy the whole trade. You're in a position where you'll have the Indiegogo store with the trade paperback, and then it's going to be serialized. And who knows, it'll have to be retrade paperbacked after that for mass market publication. You're going to be in a position here where you're going to have your crowdfunded book listed in Diamond, and its sales numbers are now going to be compared on the same charts against, Superman and Spider-Man. So if you move now, it's really going to get noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good way to get out to a bigger market of readers, a different market. There's absolutely, so people asked about, why announce an Alterna deal during your campaign? People are going to refund or, whatever, and just get the floppies. That hasn't been the case at all. And I think it's because they're 2 very different markets. People that enjoy backing crowdfunding campaigns, and they enjoy, all the extras and the stuff that you get in crowdfunding campaigns. They're not, generally speaking, the same group of people that are going into comic book shops and ordering books there. And so, yeah, it's a cool way to broaden your base and, reach new readers. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm here to do, is just to get the book out to as many readers as possible, and, allow them a chance to read it and love it, or send it back, hate it, whatever. Like, as long as they give it a shot, I love that.
Sure. And the trade paperback is going to be comparatively a much more limited print run. So there's the rarity factor that comes in for people who enjoy that kind of thing. So yeah, you're loving that book. You should see the version I've got here. You can't get this anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it comes with all the perks too, that whatever your tier levels are on those kind of things. Are you thinking ahead? I know that, there's been jokes about having to do the Dracula story and stuff like that, but do you have a serious project in mind for what comes after Downcast Rise Ball?
Yeah, I have got a story planned with Charlie Snogans. You might remember him from the latest Jawbreakers book. He did one of the short stories in there, the Zashi story. He did the art for that. We're working on one. I just texted him today about it, actually. And so that'll be coming next. That's the next crowdfunded book. That's the plan. So yeah, we're working toward it, and I think it's only going to grow.
Fantastic. So you're going to keep, no matter what the political climate obviously is in Comicsgate, or what isn't Comicsgate, or whatever it subdivides into next year.
Yeah, I mean, so this is
because you're operating on your own principles.
Well, I mean, I think that they're not. I'm not doing any kind of unique principles. I'm just making comics. You know what I mean? I think, like, especially from Comicsgate, they're really common sense principles and ideas. I mean, I think most people agree that that's the case. Problem is that the industry has, treated fans so poorly, especially online, that it has become more rare, which is sad. But I think that's the case. So for me, I'm going to keep making comics. The weird thing with Comicsgate is that the way I look at it is a hashtag that was meant to serve the principles or the ideals of this movement. And so what I want to do is say, I want to make comics according to these ideas and these principles. And if the hashtag, whatever happens to the hashtag or how it evolves, or, you've seen the debates online about what it means, all that kind of stuff, that's what I don't want to get trapped into with what it means to one person. I keep getting this question so often. And the problem is that people define things so differently that I'm like, well, what, it ends up being, what's your definition? And so to me, I'd rather define it by the principles that hashtag or other hashtags like Move the Needle and others were meant to serve. To me, that is where you have growth, rather than trying to make it fit this hashtag that can be a moving target. And I've seen over my time on YouTube that the definitions and the expectations, they just change, depending on who you're talking to. So I'd rather be more clear with what it is by going with the principles, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've seen that in your experience.
Sure. I have. I've been sadly prophetic. I'm not often prophetic, so I should take pride in it. But I compared Comicsgate several months back to religion, wherein you would have two people who were, say, Christians meet each other and say, oh, doth thou lovest the Christ? Yea, verily, we doth love us Christ. Then we are Christians together and brothers. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, wait, what art thou doing? Thou art loving God wrong. Fucketh off thee. We do it this way. And suddenly there's a split and a schism. And
yeah,
and that's been happening. It's been doing again. And
right. And so for me, it's like, this is really where I'm coming from. And I'm being as honest as I can possibly be here. I don't want to be to have new expectations put upon me for how I should be publishing my books, what they should look like, if I should even go to the direct market. Like, I've had people tell me that I can't do that. That is not any kind of movement that I've ever joined. That's not any, I've never signed up to have to be in a collective where people get to decide what I can't do. To me, it's like it's an open market. The people that decide are the customers. If you're backing my books, I want to give you what I want. I'm very transparent about not putting political propaganda in comics. That's really important to me. And I've, spoken about it frequently. I'm against blacklisting, all these kinds of things. The problem, the issue that I have is just, when there's additional requirements, placed under it that I am not, there's surprise, like fine print, when I'm like, this is never how it used to be. So to me, I'm just growing with those principles. And I think with what fans have been wanting anyway.
Yeah. And this is such, I've called this whole movement, whether it be Comicsgate or whether it be crowdfunding independent creators, a new renaissance in comics, because there's variety out there now. And this year alone, since just in the last 2 months, There's been your comic now has been announced as an Alterna deal, which is a huge thing. And then, Zach came out with the announcement that he's working with Sylvester Stallone, of all people, on an Expendables comic, which is this huge IP. I don't know if that has happened in crowdfunding or not. I know Mike Miller has done The Meg, but I don't know if that's officially tied in with the movie of the same name.
Yeah.
Even though it's a big shark. So there's so much opportunity for explosive growth happening right now, and it's happening while at the same time there's all this loading the gun and shooting yourself in the foot with it at the same time by all these other creators who are saying, me too, we're all this same thing. I think working independent, say, I'm comics, I'm this group comics, they're me.
Yeah, it's always Downcast has always been my book, even with Alterna, which is, again, that's another reason I love Alterna. It's my book, and so, like, to me, like, being able to, I'm just trying to do what's best for the book and for the readers of that book and to build up the story, like, I think, I don't know, though, that I'm not afraid to speak to anybody that wants to speak to me. Again, I don't like blacklisting. I don't know. I'm just trying to live by all those principles that my readers want to see. So it seems unfortunate that it just seems like things have been more about branding, you know what I mean, than about moving past branding. And I don't know why that's always such a fight.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think.
So where do you see things in a year from now? Go ahead, Peter.
I said I think this whole topic is a bit of a dead horse. I think the whole point of that whole movement that happened was basically to showcase stuff that was going on, and then when people made their point, a lot of creators were like, you know what, I kind of agree with that too. And they started making their own comics and everything else. And Alterna's never been officially Comics Gate or whatever that happens to mean. I've never come out as officially siding with anything or anything like that. But I've definitely said I'm not going to not side with anything or put people down about anything that has to do with Comics Gate or what politics they believe in. Or I don't care about any of that. I care about, do you enjoy the comic? Because I'm running a business, and this is the business of it. Is we're making comics. And if you don't enjoy the comic, I want to know why. If you do enjoy it, I want to know why. And the response is going to be the same. Thank you for reading. And at the end of the day, I'm looking at everybody and they're individuals. So whether you believe or don't believe in something like a Comics Gate or whatever that means to you, it's not really something I'm in here to just sit here and judge people by. And I think the fact that we want to do that all the time and make that kind of a center of discussion is just so boring at this point. So incredibly boring.
Yeah.
Let's just make comics. Let's talk about them. Let's do the things that we want to do. Tell the stories you want to tell. If you want to treat customers poorly, go for it, because you're going to have all the repercussions for doing that come back at you. If you want to treat them right, if you want to treat them fairly, if you want to actually run a business in a professional kind of way on any level, you're going to reap those rewards as well. So it's all about you get what you give. And some people don't really want to do that. They don't like that, but that's life. So I hate having that.
Agree.
Yeah, I hate having that discussion over and over again. We see that all the time with social media too. It's kind of pointless. It goes around in circles, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because let's talk about 10, 20 years from now. I don't know if any of this stuff matters. I don't even know if any of us are.
I was just going to say the same thing.
So let's just keep making comics and treat
if you
people
just make the
right
comics.
way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Make comics that you love, keep selling comics, and a year from now, you'll still be making comics and selling comics. If you're all about, who said this about whomever, or who's sneaking DMs behind my back, next year, you're going to be doing something different if you're doing anything at all, and nobody's going to be caring about it. But people will talk about your comics if you keep steadfastly doing that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
with that in mind, we've been here almost an hour. Go ahead, Clint. Close it out.
I was just going to say, I've been really working to think of myself as a comic professional. You know, I have an official publisher now. I'm going through direct market, all this kind of stuff. And so I really want to focus on being the kind of creator that I wanted to see, especially on social media. I think I've been doing pretty good lately. But like that's what I want to strive for is, you know, I feel like I spend a lot of time sort of, I picture like Sonic the Hedgehog. If you play the video game, you know, he spins the feet and you kind of, or like he's spinning, he's getting ready, and then you let go of the button and then you go off, you know? And so maybe that's a bad analogy. I don't know, but that's kind of how I feel. Like I know what I want to do. I know the kind of creator I want to be, even artistically speaking. And now I'm out the gates and I want to move forward and put those things into practice.
Absolutely.
Have you thought about the convention circuit and pressing the flesh and signing stuff now?
Yeah, I absolutely want to do conventions. That has always been a dream of mine to be on the other side of the table. So I was talking with Peter, was it last week, about was it Plastic City Comic Convention? Is that right?
Yeah, the one in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Really great one-day show.
Yeah. So I would love to do that because I want to meet Peter in person as well. And I also want to get some pointers on, you know, I've never done selling at conventions or anything like that. So I want to learn from the master, meet some other alternate creators as well. I think that would be a blast. So, but yeah, and then I want to do some local conventions as well.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you for showing up. Don't everybody clap at once here in the crowd. They'll come watch it later. There's probably some other outrage thing going on that's way more important than what we're talking about, which is making comments.
Right.
Appreciate you all coming on the show. For those who are watching, we'll be back Saturday when we're going to talk about grayscale, and then keep coming back. We're going to do some long box diving on Tuesday, and I've got to get a hold of a young lady named Mandy to talk about Work the Wizard. So we're going to do more of these live streams and do more recorded stuff. Try to get that subscription count up from 750 to 1,000 so that, you know, we can actually have an audience in this thing and make this worth everybody's while.
Nice.
Thank you all for coming. I'm going to close it out.
All right, thank you. Have a great one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right.
It's a little bit